Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1Million by 1Million Strategy Roundtable for Entrepreneurs. 1M by 1M, as you know, is the first and only global virtual accelerator for startups. It's designed to help entrepreneurs reach $1 million in annual revenue, 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million in annual revenue and beyond, build $1 trillion in global GDP and 10 million jobs. And in support of that mission, we've been doing these free mentoring sessions for years. And this is our 412th session. So we have been here doing these sessions almost at least, like 45 to 48 weeks of the year. So maybe we are not doing a session somewhere between 2 to 4 to 5 weeks because of my travels, but most of the time, week after week after week, we are available for you to come and seek assistance. The event is being recorded. If you go to our YouTube channel, 1M1M Roundtables, you will find recordings of every single prior session. And that's an enormous body of recordings. You're very welcome to look at them because you will learn from listening to those as well. Now, you can join us on Twitter at 1M by 1M and at Romana. Now, we publish a tremendous amount of interesting, educational, inspirational content through these channels. If you're live tweeting the show today, use hashtag 1M1M. And these are the call-in instructions. We're not quite ready for call-in yet. We have scheduled programming. We have, I believe, 5 entrepreneurs who are going to do their pitches, and I will be working with them first. And then we will open this up for Q&A depending on how much time is left, and then you can dial in and converse. All through the session, you can use public chat to converse. The public chat is set up to send to all participants. So go ahead and use that and continue to dialogue throughout the session. Now, a little bit of expectation setting for those of you who will be presenting today. Remember, we are on your side. This is a safe working session. You can, you don't have to be nervous or tense about this discussion. This is a discussion that is designed to help you. So we will do our best to give you what we think is appropriate feedback and something that you can do something with, something actionable. Now, if you disagree with the feedback you get here, that's fine too. It's your venture. You will decide on how you want to play it. Just take the feedback and work that into your strategy. One thing you have to take into account is that not all businesses can raise money, and raising money doesn't guarantee success. So the philosophy of the program here is entrepreneurship equals customers, revenues, and profits. Financing is optional, exit is optional. So 1 million by 1 million, just by definition, we have committed to helping those companies who are not going to be the venture scale companies or venture style companies as well. Over 99% of the businesses out there that seek financing get rejected by VCs. But that is okay. That doesn't mean that your business is not a good business. Sometimes a good business may not be a great investment, in which case you're going to have to build it on a bootstrap basis. So these are just things that we've learned over working with so many entrepreneurs over such a long time. These are some of the fallacies we see in the assumptions and the myths that are floating in our industry. So we try to bust those myths. We're going to start with Raj Valli from Princeton, New Jersey. Raj, please unmute your line and talk about what you're doing.
Thank you so much, Shomana, and it's a pleasure and an honor to be actually invited to not only talk to you and also present here. Thank you so much, Maureen, for assisting with everything on the logistics side. Really appreciate that. So very quickly, if you think about, obviously, in the first slide that we just went past by, I am an actual avid tennis player. I wish I can play like Rafael Nadal, but I'm not yet there. So this particular slide about the business itself, obviously, I'm the founder and CEO of Thinkster Math. We are essentially a technology-enabled tutoring company, and we primarily currently serve the K-8 math market. We are the first man-machine tutoring company in the world, and we are able to deliver fantastic learning outcomes because of our data-driven approach. And obviously, we've got fantastic reviews and references over the years from many players in the market. If you can switch to the next slide, Shramana, if you don't mind. So essentially, just a little bit of perspective in what we're trying to get done here. As you can clearly see, many industries that have actually traditionally remained fragmented have been consolidated eventually because of the availability of new technologies. Amazon was the first one which was able to consolidate the books and CD distribution market. And the initial days, because of the availability of internet, and many people don't know, America Online actually carpet bombed the entire country with their AOL floppy diskettes. Without internet access, Amazon would not have actually gotten their initial growth. Same thing if you really think about Netflix. It was able to consolidate and disrupt the video rental industry because of the availability of low-cost DVDs that not only weighed a few ounces, obviously, so you can actually ship it by first-class mail, 30 cents or 35 cents, but obviously it was a lot less expensive and actually could handle an entire movie, 4 GB, 5 GB. Uber, this is the industry that's been around, God knows, like 30, 40, years. And likewise was able to consolidate a highly fragmented taxi ride-hailing industry only because the majority of consumers actually have started to carry smartphones in their pockets, enabling them to offer seamless experience to hire a taxi no matter where you are in the world. If you really think about fragmented industries that have actually eventually gotten consolidated, there is a reason, mainly because from a technology perspective or from a delivery perspective, that they have not been yet consolidated. Thinkster finally is able to provide the same degree of consolidation for an extremely highly fragmented tutoring market because of the availability of not only low-cost devices, but also because of newer technologies like artificial intelligence and everything else that is enabling us to do more things with the digital stuff that we are able to do. We are essentially going after a highly targeted, motivated market of consumers who are eagerly looking forward to either improving the math learning ability of their students or want to make sure that their students can actually exceed in their students' performance in competitive tests and examinations and things like that. And this automatically increases engagement of consumers who come into our market. Next slide, please. And this is kind of a tongue-in-cheek, if I can call it that. But the reason why we're able to replace the business model that has essentially been built for the last century is that if you look at Blockbuster on the right with rows and rows of VHS and DVDs, essentially they've been replaced by Netflix. Likewise, Kumon, which is one of the players in the tutoring market, they are probably the 800-pound gorilla that can very easily replace, has 26,000 centers across the world, and my basic backup envelope calculation was that they were circulating 7.6 billion worksheets across the entire world every year. And we have fantastic competitive advantages, low operating costs, highly scalable, very high productivity, significant labor advantages because we have part-time teachers across the world in respective countries actually delivering service. So in essence, we have essentially fairly significant and reasonable competitive advantages compared to incumbents in the marketplace. Next slide, please.
Raj, this is a segment I know a lot about. Let me ask you a few pointed questions. Is this
Sure.
Are you pulling from are you doing a marketplace of tutoring?
No, I'm not. We are essentially a direct delivery of tutoring services directly into the market. We have our own teachers who are actually delivering services. We may eventually try to Uberify the tutoring market. We can talk about that definitely as we get into the discussions as well, Shramana.
So where are your tutors?
They are all over the world. We have U.S. tutors for U.S. consumers, tutors in the Middle East for satisfying customers from Africa and Middle East and Europe and everything else. So we have tutors who are basically locally sourced by us. They work for us directly at this point in time.
And what is the cost structure?
What do you mean?
Like how much are you paying the tutors and how much are you charging the consumers?
So our, without getting into too many details because this is a public forum, I would say that our cost of goods sold is less than 30% at this moment in time, Shravana.
So what do you charge? What is the pricing?
We have, I think if you go down to the next slide, I think you have a pricing slide. I can pull that up as well if you go one level more, maybe one more slide, I think, one more. So we basically, yeah, that's the one. So we have SaaS pricing. We have pricing like a SaaS company. We have anywhere between $30 to $200 per student per month. Our average revenue per user actually is around the $90 per student per month. It's actually doubled over the last, almost a 50% increase over the last 2 years, Shravana.
And what is the assumption? Are people constantly working with tutors or are they working with software?
So yeah, I will give a very quick overview on this, right? So essentially the way this works is that each student comes up and starts with a diagnostic test and an assessment that essentially allows us to identify their strengths and weaknesses using a patent pending proficiency matrix, which is almost like a fingerprint, like a knowledge graph. Based on that and based on the conversations our teachers will be having, we are able to personalize the assignments with a very high degree of precision for every student who comes into the platform. And if you go one slide ahead, I will talk about, we have some patent pending, one more backwards, Shramana, if you don't mind. So if you look at, yeah, that's the one. So if you really look at it, what we have really done is that we are using a patent pending active replay technology, which is a proprietary technology that we have developed as well. So part of the large reason, a very quick example, I have 3 girls. When my daughters come back from school and say, hey, Dad, I don't understand how to solve the problem, the first thing you basically say is like, okay, show me what you're trying to do. So you observe them solving the problem, and then you say, aha, you know what, step 2 or step 3 or step 4, you're not able to, you're making this mistake, and here is how you actually rectify the mistake. The way current technologies are currently oriented is that you can either go to a one-to-one tutor who can actually observe the work you do, or you can actually do it as a synchronous online sessions. And neither of them is scalable at this point in time because a tutor has to be available in front of you, and they have to actually deliver services. We are able to actually keep track of the student writing at the millisecond level. So asynchronously, literally the paper comes back alive and is able to allow our tutors to essentially look at exactly where the student has made a mistake, not only what mistakes they have made very quickly, but where they have made the mistake. So if I can give a parallel, it's not different from the way people used to use a typewriter 30 years back to type a 10-page document using a magnifying glass and going and looking at spell check and grammar check, but nobody does that these days. They use the word processing software. What we are able to do is provide a very similar user experience for our teachers where they can quickly identify not only what mistakes students have made, but why they have made it, because they can actually play back and actually show the reasons why a student has made a mistake. And a classic 80-20 rule, if you know the 20% of issues that cause 80% of problems, by fixing 20%, we are able to get an 80% lift in performance. That's exactly what we do in this process.
So, but what is the process in terms of how much of the tutor is touching it, or is it all done in software? By identifying the 20%, are you able to automate, or the tutor has to touch the student?
The tutor actually touches the student on a regular basis, on a daily basis, and they also have the ability to actually have a one-on-one asynchronous tutoring session. That's an optional add-on that we just added last year, in addition to the daily grading and feedback that is actually done by the tutor. The biggest advantage that we are able to do is that we are able to provide a degree of precision for tutors. If I gave you 20 students and they all worked on 20 math problems, so Shramana, you have to actually sit down and manually grade 400 problems before we can actually identify which student actually is struggling with which problem and all of those things. So we are marrying a high degree of precision with our technology and using data science, and we are able to provide information to our teachers so they can actually quickly identify which student is struggling with which problem, why are they struggling, and they are able to provide a best practice approach and solution immediately on a daily basis. So it's a man-machine company. That's the first time that we have actually done, because it's very hard to scale. If you go to a McD's, you can only flip so many burgers a minute because it's a highly manual process. Of course, you can use machines and everything else.
Well, and the thing that in the back of my mind is the cost issue, right? If you want to do something for $30 a month per student, that's to be able to get a tutor to touch somebody every day at $30 a month is not viable.
$30 a student is actually only the content delivery. So if I can parse out the way we actually deliver, $60 a month is basically where our tutor services are. The basic plan or the light plan is basically just content delivery. We have parents who are highly educated and they don't want to have any tutor involvement. They really like the high quality of content that we have. So they take the light plan, which is the $30 plan. I'm just giving you K through 5 pricing without muddling the conversation. So a similar plan on a $60 for a K through 5 will be having a tutor actually provide daily grading and feedback. So the incremental delta between content plus daily grading and tutoring is where you actually get the tutor services on top, but then you can also add on one-to-one 30-minute private tutoring sessions with our tutor as well, in addition to that for our gold and platinum plans.
And what are those? The $30-minute sessions are priced at what?
Incrementally at around average of $20. So if you take the gold plan, it'll be $20 per session, or it'll be $40 per session. That's how it works.
Okay, got it. All right, let's keep going.
Yeah, so primary acquisition channels have been predominantly social media. We do have customers from over 30 countries. We are well established. We have actually gotten great reviews. We are currently very focused on the U.S. market. 90–95% of our students are actually coming in from the U.S. market, even though we have strong adoptions in multiple countries across the world. And mainly because there's obviously lots of blogs and reviews written about us, and we are actually going after well-established incumbents in the space. So predominantly Facebook and other inbound SEO and content marketing is predominantly how we use, and obviously we use conversion rate optimizations and analytics to actually improve performance. That's predominantly our acquisition channel at this point in time. If you go to the next slide, Shramana, that essentially brings us to the management team. Don't want to dwell on it. We have a significant number of investors and entrepreneurs who have actually done exceedingly well in past lives with multiple exits and everything else. So we do have a fantastic management team, advisory team, as well as our board. If you can go to the next slide. I was myself chief of marketing for a $4.5 billion company before I started this, because I'm extremely deeply passionate about solving the problems in education. I've actually worked in 9 or 10 industry verticals at C-suite positions and things like that. But I'm a certified Six Sigma Black Belt as well, and in every industry I've worked with, I've noticed that technology has had a significant impact in how industries like aerospace and cars, for example, or even office productivity applications have actually changed the way people do business. But unfortunately, technology has not yet had an impact on education the way we think it should have an education, because you have about 7 billion students, 7 billion people in the planet, and the only thing that matters for global economic GDP growth is are you able to deliver high quality learning services to students at a very high degree of impact. And so this is a personal passion of mine.
How much money have you raised, Raj?
We have raised about $4.5 to $5 million so far, Shramana.
And what is the revenue level right now?
Again, since we are a public forum, I'll just say that we are well north of $1 million at this point in time.
Okay. And that's $1 million ARR?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. All right. So what's your question?
Yeah, so my question is, obviously, look, I always look forward to these opportunities, and I'm always a constant, learner, and I'm always interested in hearing perspectives. Our goal is that, look, we do a fantastic job. We think that we are doing incredibly well, but obviously, if you ask me as an entrepreneur, I'm going to give myself a D- because I should actually have a mushroom cloud expansion. And so what are the kinds of things that we should be thinking about in doing where we are not necessarily doing just traditional inbound and SEO and digital marketing? How can we make this explosive, and how can we reach more people for the lowest dollar amount? So I ideally would like to actually focus on cost of customer acquisition to be zero, to be honest.
So the first thing that stands out is a market that I have studied a while ago, partly because in 2004 I had thought about doing this as a business, using artificial intelligence to do tutoring. But at the time, if you remember, 2004 was before really social media took off. So for for our analysis was that customer acquisition would be too expensive, so we didn't do it.
Yeah.
And at that point, it was the only way to reach customers would be through schools and all that, and we didn't do that. So now a lot of things have changed since then, and some of what you need to think about is to factor those changes into your customer acquisition strategy in particular, because a lot of the growth is going to depend on that. For instance, a much younger and much more technology savvy set of teachers are in classrooms today, and they're bringing technology into classrooms very aggressively. So you do need to think about the teacher channel, and there are proven ways of doing that. There are ways of approaching these teachers and going into these teachers. And then, this is a technology that is going to be paid for by parents. So you want to go after parents who have budget available. So that categorizes certain types of schools and so forth. So there is all this segmentation work that you can do and do much more strategic customer acquisition than what you're doing right now, which is brute force social media. But you can do it in a much more systematic way, and I can, help you with that if that's something that you're looking for help with through our program.
Okay, I would certainly be very interested. I had a brief conversation with Maureen about this via email, so look forward to connecting with you offline, if that makes sense, Shramana, and then we can take it forward from there. I'd love to actually hear your thoughts in much more detail.
Hang on, let me finish talking to the other entrepreneurs. I will explain later in the program how to use 1Mby1M, and if you decide to reuse 1Mby1M, you're very welcome to do that. So, but I'll explain in a bit.
Okay, thank you so much. Really appreciate the opportunity, Shramana.
Very good execution so far, and it's an area that I really like, so very good, excellent. All right.
Thank you so much.
We have, who's next? Wait a second.
That's me, Altamash.
Altamash, okay. Go on.
Hi. So actually, this is the question slide that's supposed to be there at the end. If you could just come to the cover of the deck, and I can take on from there.
This one, right?
Yep, that's
okay.
right. Hi, folks. I'm Altamash, founder CEO at Ethnic Khazana. We are a cross-border marketplace offering Asian and Islamic fashion for women across MENA. Next, please. So why do we need to exist? That's because Islamic fashion in MENA can only be found at small local stores in big cities like Dubai. The limited choice obviously leads to higher prices, as most of the malls and retailers are focused on branded Western fashion. Reaching these local stores is time travel intensive, and mobility for women in MENA is not very easy. Next slide, please. So do you
want to do this as an e-commerce place?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So we're already live. So we are solving this problem by building a global marketplace, offering everything ethnic Islamic in one place by increasing choice, reducing savings, reducing prices, and widening access. So no matter where you are in MENA, you get local delivery payments and support. Thus far, we've served 3,000 customers across 10+ countries and generated 100K plus in revenue across the MENA region. Next, please. So overall, the overall universe is sufficiently large. Islamic fashion is a $320 billion plus market annually. Around
where are you getting this number from?
That's from Thomson Reuters, and it's from Thomson Reuters Global Islamic Economy Report.
Sounds very high. Okay.
I could share data to back that up later.
All right. So keep going.
Sure. So around 25% of the 2 billion, around 25% of global Muslims Muslim women live in the Middle East, spending a combined total of $50 billion plus on Islamic fashion annually. Next, please.
Do you have a segmentation of what is your market? What is your target market? Like what age group, what styles? Because Islamic fashion is a very broad thing. What are we talking about? Where do you want to position?
So we started with Asian fashion because me being from India, we had the easiest access to that inventory. The Asian fashion that transcends into appealing to both Asians in the Middle East as well as to the women in MENA.
So, but you know, in fashion, this is an industry, again, I have experience in because I ran a fashion e-commerce company. You have to figure out exactly what age group you're going to go after, what is their lifestyle, what is their online activity, how do you acquire those customers based on that positioning and so forth. So you're going to need to do that work to really zero in on both merchandising strategy and customer acquisition strategy.
Sure. So that's just the, so we are, at present, we are available via mobile web and desktop. That's the regular e-commerce workflow wherein you can search or browse through categories, select a product that you like from a wide range of designs, discover what others are buying, and if you like something, add it to cart, checkout, and you're done. So how do we make money? We earn a 30% margin approximately on every transaction.
Are you buying your inventory or is it consignment?
No, we source it on demand.
You source it on demand. And right. So what does the supply chain look like? Who's giving you the merchandise?
So these are small local designers spread across the country, spread across India, or distributors of larger manufacturers. Again, these are because the ethnic fashion industry is very disorganized and fragmented. So it doesn't have a manufacturer to distributor to retailer, a standardized supply chain. So these are fragmented small distributors or designers across the country that we source our inventory from.
Okay. And how many of these are in your supply chain?
Right now, we're working with around 15 vendors, 1.5.
1.5, okay.
Accessing, and, more than, sorry, please.
Does that mean that you take the order and then what is the shipping? Are they going to drop ship or are they going to send it to you and then you're going to ship? What is the logistics?
Right now, they ship it to us. We do a quality check, a sanity check, everything is in place, and we then forward it to our international customers.
And how long does it take?
We currently deliver in 4 to 6 working days. That's something we'd like to improve upon.
4 to 6 working days. So they can ship it to you and you can ship it to the customer in 4 to 6 working days.
Yes. They ship it to us in around 24 to 48 hours and the latter part takes around 4 days.
What is the shipping charge?
That varies country by country. The Middle East would be somewhere around $10, between $9 to $10.
And who's paying that, you or the customer?
That's all bundled into the product. So 70% goes through all the expenses, product and logistics expenses. 30% is our gross margin.
Okay, all right. And this 2,000 new users per month is your target or is your actual?
No, that's our target.
And how many do you have right now?
Right now, we've acquired 3,000 customers across a span of more than 12 to 18 months. So the rate, okay. But we're self-funded, so our speed is limited.
All right.
So in terms of customer acquisition and how do we drive adoption, we currently reach users across various online channels like social media, search, and conversation messengers. building close partnerships with offline stores, influencers, content and logistics partners, and introducing private labels that can be distributed across other third-party channels are part of the roadmap going forward.
Okay.
In terms of competition, we basically have mainly two sets of competitors, offline stores present in larger cities and modest fashion websites like Modernisa, Shukar and Mela. Modernisa is a well-funded player in this segment. It's born out of Turkey. We as a cross-border marketplace from India are well stacked on most parameters in terms of selection range, discovery and price due to efficiency in manufacturing. In terms of delivery speed, as I said, we take around 4 to 6 or 5 to 7 working days, and there's potential to improve on that count. As well as markets covered, so we've covered Middle East extensively as a target market so far, but we plan to cover Southeast and other regions as well. Next slide, please. So how are we uniquely positioned to take advantage? That's because so we are from India, and India is the second largest only after China in terms of textile exports to MENA. It's a factory of skilled engineers, highly skilled, affordable talent, and a hub of latest e-commerce technology. Two is Middle East being a land of malls. We plan to bundle in online to offline and offline to online commerce holistically into our strategy. Build partnerships with offline stores to use them as delivery and discovery centers. And cross-border is the demand for Islamic fashion is split across Muslims living in 2 billion Muslims living in different countries across the world, and that needs a truly cross-border aggregator in terms of both supply and demand. Large percentage of the population in the GCC countries primarily is made up of Asians, and we enjoy a lead on that segment. Next, please. That's our team. That's me, Altamash. I come from an engineering background. I hail from Mumbai. I've earlier worked with an e-commerce, fashion e-commerce startup called MENA. Helped them grow from $2 million to $10 million in 18 months. That's my co-founder, Zafar. He's a group IT manager at a leading conglomerate in UAE, and he syncs up with everything local that we need in UAE in terms of operations and logistics. Next slide,
and you don't
please.
have anybody from the fashion background on your team?
No, not yet.
It's something you should get, and you should get somebody who has an understanding of women's fashion. Because you as engineers will not have any of that instinct of what your target segment is looking for. So my primary feedback here is that it's missing all the segmentation of B2C fashion marketing that absolutely needs to happen. So it's a bit of a spray and pray. You're all over MENA. You're doing Muslim fashion without really doing all that positioning work. So that's something that you need to do ASAP.
Sure.
Let's go to your questions. These are your questions, yeah? 1 second.
No, so this is from our perspective, the first slide, yeah, that's the questions.
Go ahead.
So, firstly, what's your feedback on the business model in terms of are we after the right market? Do you believe there's a space for a player like us from India to aggregate, not only offer the best of India, but aggregate it from other Asian markets like Pakistan and Bangladesh and build a holistic offering?
I think that is an interesting track. So you will need to worry about design and merchandising as you go along. It's a good place to start, but you're going to need to worry about design, merchandising, and branding as you go along. So there's a whole bunch of things that you're going to need to learn. To do a sustainable fashion e-commerce company, there is a whole bunch of things that you need to learn that is not part of your background. But yes, I think the niche is an interesting niche. It's a large niche, so I think you can build a sizable fashion e-commerce business here.
Sure. So the second is, the first point I take that as feedback on business model and team. Second is what we need I mean, we need funds, but what do we need to get funds, and how do we get them? Because the journey from here on is a little difficult without infusion of capital.
Right. So you're going to need to get all these things that I'm talking about tightened up. So you're going to need to tighten up your team and bring fashion expertise on the team. You're going to need to tighten up your positioning on specifically what segment are you going after and how. You're going to need to tighten up your customer acquisition strategy accordingly, and show how you're going to get to velocity. All of that needs to be in place before you can raise money, but if you can put those things in place, you can raise money. And I'm not convinced about your offline retailer strategy, because this is, I mean, to me it looks like this needs to be an e-commerce company. I don't see where the offline retailer comes in. That's your competitive positioning is an online versus offline. You're competing with the offline retailers. Where is the offline retailer strategy? I don't see it.
Would you like me to offer just a quick bite on that as to how do I see?
Sure.
So see, what we envision ourselves as a technology and information platform in terms of what a local store in Dubai or Saudi may not ever be able to offer in terms of the sourcing network that we would build and the logistics network that we will build.
So you want to do a wholesale?
So a combination of both, as in where we see these stores as gateways to, one, acquire customers, and two, deliver our items.
Have you tested that assumption?
Not so far.
Yeah, so that has lots of implications. If you're trying to do wholesale, if you want to have a part of your business as a wholesale business catering to retailers, that's one thing. That's a viable strategy. You could become a wholesale partner to a whole bunch of retailers, small retailers in the Middle East in this segment. That's a viable strategy. But you can't kind of be in the middle. If you want to do retail to retail, that's not going to work. You either do retail, e-commerce, or you do wholesale, selling to retailers. You can't do both.
Sure. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Okay. I had a couple of questions still pending, ma'am. If you could just get back.
Go ahead.
Could you just roll back to that slide? Yeah. So my third question was, a lot of the large fashion retailers, primarily like Splash and Lifestyle, who are born out of the Middle East, have not touched upon this segment, and neither online as an intrinsic channel. So do you think we should be looking at an alliance with offline retailer primarily before, the primary reason being that we would get an established supply chain and logistics footprint in terms of they already have the hubs, the warehouses built across the entire GCC rather than we building them again, is the rationale. Do you think that's a viable proposition?
If they want to build an Islamic fashion practice, if they're major offline retailers, they can build it. It's just a matter of opening up a new category. They don't need you for that. So I'm not convinced about why that would be interesting to them. You can talk to them, but I'm not hugely optimistic about that strategy.
So you don't see any of these coming in as a strategic investor? You don't think that would? that could happen?
That's a different thing. A strategic investor is a different thing. You asked for partnership. I give you a response about partnership. Strategic investor is a whole different ballgame. If you have a compelling strategy and if you have a compelling business that is growing nicely and so forth, a strategic investment may be viable.
All right. Fine.
And in that case, if you want to use their infrastructure, a strategic investment may be a more viable route than actually a partnership.
Makes sense. Thanks. Noted.
Yeah. All right.
Lastly, I would appreciate a couple of action items because at this point we are low on in terms of cash, and we're trying to figure out how do we take it to the next level and how do we build forward from here. So
I gave you action items. I think you don't understand those action items because you don't have the methodology figured out. So if you hang on, I will point out a little bit further into the presentation. I will point out how to use the 1Mby1M program to plug your methodology gaps.
Sure.
Okay, so just hang on and we can get back to Q&A after I'm done with the other two presenters.
Fair enough. Thanks.
Okay. Premnath, you're up next.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. How are you?
Good.
Okay, fine. Anyway, I'll give a short introduction that I have a team of 5 people, all from different technical background, electronics and mechanics, etc., etc. And I'm from totally non-technical background, where I have no knowledge about robotics industry 1 year back. But right now, the team has been associated to form a vision of building a humanoid robot. So, as we have to agree upon the fact that 50 years back, if we have lived in that particular time, we couldn't have imagined the diverse technological development that has happened till date. So, in that case, we can also imagine the futuristic civilization where humans and the humanoid robots will be walking parallel in roads, restaurants, hotels, and you can see them as doctors in hospitals and nurses. And of course, the humanoid robots will be teachers in schools and soldiers in military and defense. So literally you will see humanoid robots in each and every domain of human inhabitants. So in that case, the product which I'm trying to build, the humanoid robot, which is going to involve a large amount of capital, and the bootstrapping process where I'm trying to raise funds will be a much meager amount, say 1% of the total infrastructure. So with the vision of building a humanoid robot and attaining the point of singularity, which the scientists are debating right now, which is also going to happen in less than 30 years. So the point of singularity, why I'm pointing it out here, is because we all are working towards that particular milestone. And the scientists predicting that it will take a long time is being achieved much faster. For example, IBM's Deep Blue in 1997 defeating Gary Kasparov, and in 2011 IBM AI Watson beating Jeopardy challenge, and in 2016 Google's DeepMind AlphaGo defeating the GOAT world champion. So the super intelligence is going to happen, and you will see humanoid robots which has been built by the humans is going to think.
Focus on what you are doing. This is too general a lecture. Go ahead and focus on what you are doing.
Yes, ma'am. So see, the thing is, in order to produce my vision, to transfer my vision, I have to make the the present or the investor, whoever is sitting in front of me, to imagine the way I imagine the future. So that is the reason I bring out this generalization views. So anyway, the robot what we are trying to build is going to be used in each and every application. Let's say a physical labor where humans can be replaced, not in a sudden but systematically, where human intelligence is not dependent upon. Say for example, a person who's lifting the weight is going to use only his physical ability, where the robots can replace that. And that particular human can focus on his talent and skills. So I think the future is going to base on the humans who's going to work on the intelligence, skills and talents, and humanoid robots will be replacing the humans in those specific tasks. Our robots are going to do those kind of applications, say for example in factories and industries like where automobile industry require a lot of automations, and a humanoid robot will be replacing those executives and doing the systematic task, a machine process where humans are involved at this present point of time. And we are in the bootstrapping process, and as I said you earlier, it's an idea, a concept stage, a passionate team. With the investors' mindset here in India, it's very, very, very difficult to raise $1 million to conduct this research and development project for 1 year, at least a minimum of 1 year. So
no one in any country in the ecosystem that we operate in, no one will fund any research and development project. Investors do not fund research and development projects.
I exactly understand that. That is the thing which I have to raise up here, because the process of funding in the VC equation can change a little bit for some revolutionary ideas which can change the society. That's what I'm trying to point out here.
You can point out whatever you want, but the reality is no one's going to fund research and development. And your assumptions here are full of flaws when it comes to business building. So let's go back here. You started by saying you want to build robots that will do all of these things. Well, if you knew anything about how robotics works, there's hardware and then there's software. And each of those have specific technology angles, right? So a robot that is going to entertain, let's say through dance, has a very different technology element in there. The software is different, even the hardware is different. There may be a certain portion of commonality, but there's a lot of difference, lots of customization. If you're trying to do teaching what subject, that means the software is different for each subject, etc. So there's all sorts of customization in each of these types of robots. So if you want to build a company, so what specifically is the market that you want to go after, and start figuring out how to build a product that has certain applicability, certain market. How are you going to go to market and so forth? So right now, you are operating at not just 30,000 foot, you're operating at space level. You need to come back to the ground and figure out one step before the other, and I would strongly recommend you do some very serious methodology development, methodology gap plugging. You need to learn how to build a business. That's number one. And number two, you need to learn something about how robotics works to be able to make these decisions. You said up front that you don't know. You're not from the technology background. You don't really know robotics. So without knowing robotics, you can't make these decisions.
Yes, ma'am. I just want to, sorry to interrupt. I can understand all the feedbacks which you have given me right now. But what I'm trying to point out here is a guy who is passionate on a certain field, who doesn't have the expertise on that particular domain, should not start a venture on that. Is that what you're supposed to mean?
That is what you're going to hear from investors.
Okay, I totally agree upon that. So that is your view, and I agree upon that, because that's how the investors see me actually here in India, to raise a capital for a product which doesn't have a market. So I agree upon that. And investors see the revenue which will be created in that particular demographic. But see, for Pepper Robot, which has been created by SoftBank, sold 1,000 units in 60 seconds. Which means the market is there. Maybe Pepper. It's a small Pepper robot which can interact with customers, can speak, it can understand your emotions.
Function. It has a specific function. That's what I'm telling you, that robotics, the way it works is is function specific. Robotics doesn't work on a generic basis. You're not trying to create a human clone, but you're trying to, robotics typically the way the industry works is you create robots for specific functions. Robotics is quite widely deployed at the moment. You know, if you look at factories of, you know, major e-commerce retailers, there is a lot of robotics, but those are custom robots. They do specific things. In warehouses, that's a specific type of robot that does a specific function and is designed to do that function. Exactly, if you want to do a nursing robot, it has to be designed for the nursing function.
I think that I would have mentioned in step 1. Why did I mention step 1 is that's the first application which I'm going to target upon. Nursing and daycare. So this is the first application which my humanoid robot will target upon. That's what been explained in the second slide.
Yeah,
so it's not that,
this is a very amateurish presentation, Premnath. I can tell you this much, that listening to this, I have no confidence on investing in you.
Okay, ma'am. Sorry for that. If I would have crossed my line, but I was trying to put my vision in that.
It's a question, you know, if I role play with you as an investor, right? That's kind of what we're doing here. You're pitching this to me, and I'm wearing the investor hat on and telling you what I'm thinking. This looks completely amateurish to me and gives me no confidence that I want to invest in you.
Okay, ma'am. Is that because my lack of expertise in this particular domain, or the methodology which I produce?
And you have no experience of building a business either. So there are specific methodology of how to build a business. So one thing you could do is, as a start, you could learn that, and that would already start to improve your communication, improve your credibility, because you would then know how to pitch a business. You don't know how to pitch a business right now.
Okay, ma'am, because I don't want to tell my credibility. Say, for example, we are creating a robot which is going to clean the drainage systems here in Tamil Nadu, and the robot is being designed by us. So I don't want that credibility to suffice my mission, because humanoid robot is completely different from a drainage cleaning robot. And again, that would be another issue which will be raised by the investors, since you are not doing that particular kind of robot. We'll be lacking the kind of confidence in you. The similar statement I heard from many investors. That's why I'm trying to point it out here.
And I'm telling you that if you try to do too many things, you're not going to succeed. And investors see that you're all over the place, and they just immediately rule you out as a potential investment. That's what's going on here. You haven't learned the basics of how to pitch a business. You haven't learned about how to strategize about a business, and you're basically shooting from the hip. You need to learn a lot of things right now.
Okay, ma'am.
That's my advice to you.
Yeah, thanks for the advice.
You're welcome. All right, Phil, you're up next.
Thank you, Shamana, for giving us the opportunity to chat. So I'm Phil Simpkins. I'm here in San Antonio, Texas, in the U.S. And I love purple and elephants. It's always been one of my favorite things. So next slide. I'm going to talk today about Arro. Our goal is to create Robinhood's social crypto. So we'll discuss some of the options, but you can reach me at our website and our email if you want to. So the problem and opportunity out there is basically we see that time is money. We're told by Daniel Pink that we're all salesmen. We're also focused on advertising, and we're supposed to be utilizing our network and sharing. Gary Vaynerchuk says that we need to give value, and then ask for business. So there's lots of opportunities out there to share, but it's also pointed out to us in Who Owns the Future, written by Jerome Lanier, that basically social networks, we're giving up our rights, and all the control is going to a central control mechanism, and the profits are going there as well. So we're supposed to share, but there's some markets that you can actually earn some money. And then Wozniak pointed out that Facebook is basically taking our data and making money off of us as we're creating that content. So just to tell a quick story, so a few months ago in a galaxy very nearby, on the fourth moon called Sherwood Forest, Robin Hood was contemplating the plight of the social media users. They were pillaged by the content and stripped of the rights to make profit from their diligent efforts. Powerful Sir Spain-Marat on the planet Nottingham had a grip on the galaxy's resources, and he's taken all the arrows for himself. So Robin Hood and PJ wanted to make things right, so they hacked the funds from the greedy and gave to the needy. We see that Nottingham is the largest, richest network on the planet, and they wouldn't give any money away to all those users that are toiling endlessly to build a better product. So the idea here is that we're not getting anything for our hard, diligent efforts, so we need to create some type of environment where we're going to profit from our promotions and earn from our time spent. So Arro will create that equalizing world network and create a microeconomy around each user. So here in San Antonio, we have a co-working space called Geekdom. So Deborah and Drew are one of the inventors out there. And we've seen that advertising has also been around forever. It's been invented since radio, since we traveled on Route 66 here in the U.S. And we can change the way that the models are built within advertising and actually give a profit-sharing mechanism towards users. The market size is huge. Facebook has obviously got 2.2 billion. That's a stretch goal. We're probably not going to get there anytime soon. But we also see that Twitter's got 330 million monthly users. But the beachhead that we're looking at is there's some other social networks. Steemit's probably the best one that's made inroads into the cryptocurrency arena. And there's 880,000 users using that platform now. So that's kind of the alternative social media is kind of our market that we're headed to, and then focusing on new college graduate or college students in that arena. As far as competition, we're very well aware of Facebook and Twitter. They don't give anything, but we are allowed to share. Steemit is the closest one in the environment where we make money from our time. But they don't focus on advertising at all. So the only thing that gives any money towards advertising or viewership is the YouTube arena. And so the goal and focus of Arro is to be right in the middle where your time is actually valuable for advertising and sharing as well. Next slide would be great. So we have had a little bit of traction. We developed a prototype, some type of social network, and asked several users to see what their comments were. We got some feedback. We need to go back and rework it. It is available for viewing, but we need to make a lot of changes to make it a little bit more fashionable and make sure that we take care of all our feedback that we had. We did do some additional questioning of, is this actually viable, paying folks for social media? 90% of the folks we talked to did want to get paid in some sort, and so we talked to 35 folks, and that's basically all. Most of the folks we talked to college level and high school level are excited about that potential. So we created a crypto environment because blockchain's probably the latest technology to add the security that we need for tracking control, content, and ownership. And we actually introduced some crypto discussions to 160 people, and 90 of those showed interest, as well as getting this feedback and potential users by them assigning us our emails. So there is interest in a crypto environment here in San Antonio. And Sharmana, I wanted to get your viewpoint on blockchain and cryptocurrencies in general.
So Phil, I'll be absolutely upfront. I don't understand what the hell you're doing. And it's not, I don't want to give you a lecture on thoughts on crypto and social networks and blockchain applications. That's not useful for you. What you need to do is to figure out how to pitch your idea better so that somebody can engage, like somebody like me can engage, and if you're talking to investors or other people who can help you, they need to understand what you're doing. And for example, the slide that you had here, you need to go through a use case of who's getting paid how. I don't understand how Arro sits in the intersection of these three things. I have no idea what the hell you're talking about.
Okay.
So the pitch is really bad.
Okay.
And I think the first order of business is to really tighten up a pitch that explains your ideas. I mean, everything else, what is the feedback on your idea, what is the right game plan next, and all that can follow. But if I don't understand the idea, if I don't understand what the hell you're doing, how am I going to give you any guidance on where to go next, right? And that will be true with anybody that you try to seek feedback and advice from.
All right.
Okay.
So then that's the team that we're working on, and I'll help on some of the explanation. We've written a white paper to do a few use cases of number of followers, and I'll work on explaining that better in the pitch.
Okay, good. That's your number one action item from this meeting.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Amborish Nath, you're up next.
Give a brief overview about myself. Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll just give you a brief overview about myself. So I completed my mechanical engineering in the year of 2014. So after which I started photography as a profession, and I learned photography from the internet itself. So I did not go to any institute to learn photography. So right now, the startup idea that I'm going to talk about follows the similar pattern. So the problem that we are trying to solve is, in India, education has always been on top priority for every Indian family because we focus primarily on education. And quality education in India is very expensive if you're looking for private institutes, and it is not easily accessible across India, and it is not available in multiple languages because the standard language or the syllabus that we follow is typically in English or in Hindi, not in local languages mostly.
Mm-hmm.
So what we are looking to do is we are looking to build up a online learning platform which is accessible via desktop and via mobile devices, which uses internet connection. Because right now India is facing a data revolution, data boom, and our country is consuming a lot of data because of the 4G revolution that we are having. And with our e-learning platform, what we are looking to do is provide quality education, which is not really expensive. It will be the standard procedure, or there will be a subscription cost, which will be around like 500 rupees or roughly $10 per month. And we are going to offer each course in multiple languages. So what we will do is typically.
Or are you going through schools? So what is the delivery mechanism?
Yeah, so I'll be talking about this in the next phase. So what we are planning to do is, first phase, what we'll be doing is work with the locally based educational institutes. So we'll be providing them free courses, what we are producing right now, just to understand how is their reaction. And we'll take their feedback and understand what is their feedback and where we can figure out and improve our whole system. And on the next level, what we'll be doing is we'll be working with the big institutes, education institutes and educational trust to reach out to rural Indias. So we can provide these like courses to everyone who is looking for skill development. The USP that we are focusing on is affordable skill learning. So we are focusing more on skills rather than degrees. And the next phase, the third phase will be, yeah.
What skills are we talking about?
So for example, if I am a coder, I do coding, and if you want to develop a website, you need to learn about user interface and you have to communicate with your graphic designer. So if you don't know about the technicalities or the languages like Photoshop, Lightroom, After Effects, where you can use these, and have a conversation with your graphic designer. So I'm just giving you an example. So what we are looking to do is we are going to develop a course for coders, user interface development for a coder. So a coder who is looking to learn a skill related to user interface development can go there and take the course in his or her language which is comfortable for him or her, so they can learn about that. So this is just one example. So this is we are just focusing on skill development. So this is what we are doing, and if you can go to the next slide. So regarding market validation, the platform which are similar to us is Unacademy. So it has over 300,000 students, and their business model is premium. Most of their courses are free, but there are a few premium courses. But they basically focus on entrance exams, like specific like qualification exams. So they are not basically focusing on skill development. And similarly, upgrad is there, but each of their courses are approximately 70 to 80,000 rupees. So that roughly equates to $1,000, and it is mostly focused on getting certification, which can help them in promotion or getting a job. So these two businesses that I'm talking about are quite different from what we are following. Right now, we have created few courses on photography and entrepreneurship, and we've uploaded that for free on Udemy. And we saw thousands of students, not only from India, but from Pakistan and Bangladesh, from other SAARC countries, who have enrolled in this course. So this shows that there is a positive indication, and which is giving us a positive feedback, so we can grow from there. And if you can go to the next slide. So this is our competition graph right now. So what we are focusing on is online.
I think you dropped, Maureen.
And similarly, upgrade and
Amborish, I think you went silent for a little while, so if you could roll back and
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Hello? Yes, yes. So basically what I was talking about, we are focusing right now on online and affordable segment of the market. The private institutes, they are quite expensive and they are location oriented. So it is not directly accessible to everyone. And similarly, government institutes, they have very limited seats. So not everyone can go and enroll.
I think the biggest thing that is missing from your positioning chart is the local language. Online affordable, there are plenty of online affordable. This graph doesn't present online affordable. You should forget about offline and expensive and all that, and if you just do this kind of analysis on online and affordable, you'll see there are lots of options. However, it's in the local language that you don't have that much. And it's not clear to me that that you have identified the right skills to teach. And secondly, I hate your business model. Freemium is a terrible business model, especially in segments that you're talking about. Nobody will pay anything, and you will never be able to build a business out of it. So unless you come up with a skill that is, or a set of skills, a slate of skills that are in high demand for vernacular language training. People are trying to learn that so that converts into jobs, and you can get people to pay to learn that skill, and that translates into jobs. I don't think you have a business. So you better figure out what skill to teach that people are willing to pay for, and that can translate into jobs. And that is the only way you're going to be able to build a business here. So since your language is Bengali, in the West Bengal, Bangladesh area, there's a very large population, right? You've got a couple of 100 million people, Bengali-speaking people, and you find out what is the target segment out of that is interested in a specific skill that is generating a lot of jobs, and you figure out a skill to impart for which people are willing to pay and so forth. So there's a tremendous number of gaps in this business plan. You better plug those gaps.
Got it. So basically, these were the questions that I would like to ask. Is first of all, obviously the business idea validation, I got the feedback from your end, and second thing is I came across like you can license your content, the educational content. So I just wanted to know like how does it work?
It depends on what skill you're talking about. Unless we know what skill it's working with, I can't answer that question.
Exactly. So basically right now what we are working on is creating skill learning. We are focusing on photography and content creation and
that's
video.
Not going to create jobs. Photography is not going to create jobs. You need to work on content that teaches a skill that translates into jobs.
Exactly. So because I learned from the internet regarding photography, and I'm making my living from photography itself, from content creation basically, not photography, but content creation, like video content. We make video content. So this is a skill that I learned from the internet, which is like feeding me right now. So I just like so right now first we'll be focusing on photography.
But
later on we'll be focusing
because you speak English. If you didn't speak English, I don't think it would be feeding you.
Well, it depends actually. So that is why we are just focusing to provide that in multiple languages so they can learn properly and improve their skills.
I don't agree with this choice of skill. I think it's the wrong skill to try to build this business around.
Okay, and there are a few things I just wanted to know about is in India we have Startup India Fund, which is backed by the government. I just wanted to know, like, I just wanted your feedback on that, like. What is the benefits, pros and cons?
Right now, based on what you've presented, you're not fundable at all by debt or by equity. You need to first figure out what is the business, how are you going to scale, what is the fundability of this business. What you've presented is not a fundable plan by anybody, Startup India or anybody.
Got it. Got it. So I'll just work on the basics and specifics and.
So focus here. Here are your action items. Figure out what is a skill that you can teach, because your language is Bengali, I think, and your understanding of the Bengali speaking geography is good. Go figure out in West Bengal and Bangladesh what are skills that are vernacular language skills that can generate jobs. And figure out what that is, and then build your business around that.
Okay.
And something that people will pay to learn. A skill that people will pay to learn, and then that will translate into jobs. That is the progression that you will need to close the gap on.
Got it.
And you need to also learn how to build a business. You have major methodology gaps on how to, again, that's something you can learn using 1Mby1M. You can, since you do speak English, you can teach yourself what you need to learn by using our platform, but that's only because you speak English. We don't do anything in any other language besides English.
Got it.
Okay.
Sure.
So,
thank you.
You're very welcome. So folks, I'm going to spend a few minutes explaining to you. So many of you are, in that methodology gap stage. So I'm going to explain to you a bit about how to use the 1M1M platform to plug those methodology gaps. Before I do that, though, I have one thing to ask from you. If you like what we are doing here, please refer serious entrepreneurs to the program. And as you can see, I give absolutely candid feedback. It's not sugar-coated. It's not mollycoddling. I'm giving you feedback, I tell you as it is. If you have gaps, I'll tell you what those gaps are, and I'll ask you to go fill those gaps, to plug those gaps, and that's just the way the program works. This is obviously not for everybody. You have to have the stomach for receiving this kind of candor and candid feedback. So you need some, strength to be able to process this kind of feedback, but I'm not really interested in telling you what you want to hear. I am interested in telling you what you need to hear so that you can take that feedback and improve and do things that you need to do. There is absolutely no benefit by my telling you what you want to hear, giving you a pat in the back and say, yeah, you're doing great, and then you're actually not doing great and you're basically going nowhere. That's not going to help you. So I'm only interested in working with people who are really interested in that kind of authentic feedback and then doing something with it. I always give actionable, authentic feedback, and I'm interested in people who are willing to take that and process that and do something with it. Now, if you are that person, then you can find tons of resources on 1Mby1M.com. You'll find a blog series that if you follow, you will learn a lot from, and it's free. The Entrepreneur Journeys book series, there are 12 volumes of it. These are case study-based books, 12 to 16 case studies per book, and you will again learn a lot from these entrepreneurs, and each of them double clicks down on a specific topic. So for instance, you're building an e-commerce business. There's a book from e-commerce to Web 3.0 that has 12 to 16 case studies, and you can learn from other e-commerce entrepreneurs their nuances of their journeys, and so forth. These roundtables happen every week. Tens of thousands of people have attended over a long period of time. We started doing these roundtables just about 10 years ago, actually. Fall of 2008 is when we started. So we're just completing 10 years of doing this. Our full acceleration program is 1M/1M Premium. That's where you get extensive methodology guidance. We have an online curriculum that you have access to, which is taught in video lectures and case studies, and you can access it from anywhere in the world at your own time and convenience. In addition, we have these private roundtables for our members only, where we provide the strategy consulting, coaching, mentoring, whatever you call it. Similar format as what we discussed today, but much more intense and much more in-depth, because you have access to the curriculum, and the discussions are much more sophisticated because you are using the curriculum at your own time, and then we are discussing strategy with that knowledge under your belt. We also help you with business development. We help you with financing and media relations. We have a lot of clout in the media. We will let you use that clout, and we have relationships with hundreds, actually thousands of investors. And if you are fundable, we will help you with funding as well. We will introduce you to investors. Now, if you're not yet ready, in some cases there is a refining of the pitch involved. We will help you with that. And in some cases, you will have to go through a diagnostic process to see whether you're fundable or not. And in a lot of cases, we discover after doing the full diagnostic and the business analysis and so forth that you're not fundable, in which case we will guide you on a different business strategy, which is more bootstrapping oriented. Overall though, you'll find, if you go to the website, you find a self-assessment. These are the questions that you have to answer. And if you get stuck on methodology points, make sure you use the 1M/1M basic curriculum only option to plug those methodology gaps. That's a very easy thing to do. So if, let's say, many of you today are lacking positioning as a skill set. Positioning helps tremendously in accelerating businesses. High velocity businesses is what investors are looking for. And positioning is, sharp positioning is the key to building a high velocity business. So you better learn positioning. If you don't know positioning, you better learn positioning. And we do extensive positioning work here. It's actually one of the USPs of the 1M/1M program. No accelerator does the level of positioning work that we do. So that's something that you can take advantage of if positioning is your weakness. So on. Customer acquisition, again, we have to get the positioning right and then derive the customer acquisition strategy from positioning and so forth. All these are acceleration hacks, growth hacks, so to speak. So go to the website, dig around. There's plenty of information on what to expect from premium, what to expect from basic, FAQs, video FAQs. You'll find a full description of the curriculum. The curriculum is case studies and video lectures based. So it's over 300 hours worth of curriculum. And some of the case studies, some of the modules are particularly relevant for your business. You will, having blueprints that other entrepreneurs have succeeded within your domain in a related business or a similar business is an enormously successful and effective way of learning. And we have 800+ case studies like that, including 50+ unicorns, 400+ venture-funded companies, 350+ bootstrap success stories. So we have, created this platform where you can stand on the shoulder of giants who have done it before. You learn these case studies of people who went from 0 to 100 million, 0 to a billion, 0 to 500 million, or 0 to 20 million in following different strategies, and you are exposed to those strategies, you are exposed to the nuances of those strategies, and that's very, very powerful. Our methodology is bootstrap first, raise money later. So by and large, you're going to need to have some bootstrapping mentality, and you know, we're happy to work with you through both the phases, bootstrapping phase and financing phase and post-financing phase, whatever help you need through that period. That's pretty much it. We have roundtables every Thursday in September. Actually, I think it's every week in September. I think one of them is a Wednesday. Most of them are Thursdays. One of them is a Wednesday. And then 2 Wednesdays we have in-person rendezvous here in Menlo Park. So if you're local or if you're visiting, you're welcome to come by. And that's it. So we have time for Q&A. If you would like to ask questions, either dial in or use the public chat. Make sure you set it to send to all participants, and I'm happy to take more questions. And while you're thinking up your questions, let me introduce you to Irina Patterson. She is the person whom you should direct your questions about the 1M by1M program to, not to me. Irina at 1M1M.com, and she'll be happy to get on the phone with you or on Skype and answer all your questions. All right, Q&A time. Anybody? Questions? Questions, comments? No? What about the ones who pitched, Raj and Altamash? Do you have questions?
Yes. My question is, so how does the, I mean, just if you could give an insight into, you know, how the accelerator functions. The material and content part of it I figured out, but how does the accelerator work, the virtual accelerator work?
So you are going to be studying the content at your own time, and you would be coming and discussing strategy at the roundtable. So we have private roundtables. You will be receiving invitations to the private roundtables as soon as you sign up, and you can, every week you have an opportunity to come and discuss whatever you need to discuss, and I will give you action items to refine your strategy. The point at which you get to financeability, to the extent we have relationships within your segment and your geography with investors, we'll be happy to introduce you. Generally, investors anywhere like to work with us. So even if you're in a geography where we don't have a lot of investor relationships, if you give us a list of investors that you're trying to reach, we can, or we can look it up on LinkedIn and so forth. We generally send out connection requests, and they always connect with us, and we can help you navigate the investor network that way as well. In the more established geographies, we have intense investor relationships as well. So once you are ready with your pitch and your strategy and the validation proof points with which we can start an investor outreach, we'll be able to help you with that. We do have a lot of PR opportunities, so you can take advantage of the 1M by1M PR platform and get the word out there about your business, because everybody, investors, customers, everybody is looking for social proof. So having PR about your company out there on the internet is helpful, and we try to give you that. So those are the touch points. So that's how the accelerator works.
Great.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, that did. I just have another question, if I could shoot.
Please go ahead.
So the other thing was you know, how can we as a startup have 1M by 1M align in a way that align with us in a way that beyond this relationship of because I know I've read about you before attending this roundtable. So I know that you've extensively worked with startups, and maybe the $1,000 fees just to keep things going doesn't matter that much to you. But how, as this program and this accelerator can align with us in a way that they're a part of our success in a sense that you go all out and maybe even capture a bit of the value that we go on to create or capture. Was my question. Can we indulge into a relationship of that sort?
Do we take equity? We don't. We do not take equity. You can. So one of the things that is different about the 1 million by 1 million accelerator is we do not have any concept of graduation or anything. So this is a ongoing, as long as you are a member of the program, you can continue to use the program for as long as you want to, and I will continue to work with you for as long as you want to. If that is 10 years, I will continue to work with you for 10 years. So, so it's actually very straightforward. So, as long as you're a member of the program, I'm committed to working with you. So all you need to do is keep your membership current, and you have access to the 1 million by 1 million program.
Okay, but there's no other form of incentive or a goal that, no.
No, there's no other form.
Sure.
It's very straightforward. The beauty of the program and the scalability of the program is in its simplicity.
Get it. Cool.
So Amborish Nath is asking, is crowdfunding a better idea to launch products, software, pros and cons? Crowdfunding works well for physical products where you can do advanced product ordering. So for example, you have some sort of a toy, for example, or a widget that is a physical product, and you're trying to bring that to market. You do a crowdfunding campaign, you get advanced orders, and you finish the product and fulfill those orders. That's one of the best use cases of crowdfunding. In your case, crowdfunding would not be a viable path forward. Anybody else?
Hey, Shramana, this is Raj. Awesome program. I think you're doing an awesome job. Congratulations for that. I actually had a question related to the crowdfunding, and again, I will take this offline with you directly if that makes sense.
I will not be working with the offline with you beyond this meeting unless you're part of the program. So just for all of you, I'll just set that expectation correct, up front, is that if you're thinking of connecting with me offline and asking me questions, that is only viable if you're part of the 1M by 1M program. So the free roundtables are the only place where I can engage with you in a Q&A mode. So please be aware of how the program works.
Yeah, understood. I think that came out loud and clear in our recorded meetings as well that I've seen. I'm actually more interested in figuring out the Title III crowdfunding, essentially taking the company public using crowdfunding. So I will work through the program. I was actually going to ask you, I know you had Slava from Indiegogo a couple of weeks back on the program, very interesting, very acutely aware of the Title I and Title III financing opportunities available, as an offshoot of the Startup Jobs Act. So let me
I'll tell you one thing about equity crowdfunding, Indiegogo style. Very often what they're looking for is a VC to lead and the crowdfunding to supplement. It's not it's not the other way around. So be aware of that.
Understood. I think that's helpful. It's slightly different from other crowdfunding avenues like seed equity and a couple of other companies that are actually in the space, I think. So that's actually helpful.
And how many, depends on how many tutors you have. If you want to create a crowdfunding platform such that your tutors can, or, you know, so somehow the community can take equity in your venture. If you have enough, you know, for consumer businesses, B2C businesses, often we see good opportunities to do crowdfunding campaigns where the community actually wants to take ownership. So whether it's your customers or your, and this is again, this will all come through as you start segmenting. You know, remember I pointed out one of the action items in your case is getting to a tighter segmentation of where really you want to position the customer acquisition. I'll give you more, you know, if you decide to work with the program, I'll give you a lot more pointers to all that, and I think there are opportunities to do crowdfunding once you get all that stuff nailed.
Okay, fantastic. I think this is extremely helpful as well. Thank you so much for the time, Shobana.
You're very welcome. All right, folks, anybody else? Any other questions? Here, Amborish is asking any feedback on how to approach corporate small, medium companies who are looking to automate training programs by creating courses to reduce overhead expense. So now you're trying to work as a service company building content for other people. That's a different business, and you know, you're going to have to figure out what business, what type of content you want to build, and accordingly you're going to, so for that skill, one of the best places to go to is Upwork. You can list yourself as a content developer on Upwork and sell your services through that mode. Anybody else?
Shobana, one final question I had, Altamash here.
Yep. Go ahead.
I beg to differ slightly with one of the pointers that you had in terms of having someone from the fashion background, at least at the very start, because we've so far maybe we felt that somebody great from the finance background would have added more value rather than somebody from fashion, because with all the data available out there, we're very easily able to crunch what works and what doesn't. Would you still advocate having somebody from the fashion background as one of the core people from early on, or
well, what you don't understand at all is the concept of merchandising. You guys are techies. You have no understanding of merchandising. Do you even know what merchandising means?
I could just, I mean, I would just relate curation and personalization, but
yeah, but what is that? So that is something that you understand as a technologist. You don't understand what a merchandiser does, and your question itself reflects how little you have respect for that in a fashion brand. When building a fashion business, merchandising is one of the most important skill sets. And not having that skill set on your team is going to reflect. If I were an investor looking to invest in your company, I would absolutely demand that you have a merchandiser.
Fair enough. Sure. Noted.
Okay. So can you build this business to a certain point without a merchandiser on your team? Evidently, yes. You've built $100,000 worth of business. You can probably scale that somewhat. You can build more business just on a brute force basis. But eventually, to build a really large business in the fashion vertical, you're going to need a merchandiser who knows what he or she is doing.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Makes sense.
I have another question from Deep Kumar, who's asking, I want to know your opinion on free home delivery of grocery items. What is my opinion of free home delivery? All grocery stores often provide free home delivery, but it's very expensive to deliver stuff like that. You can't really build a business on free. You have to have a business model to build a business, a separate business. A grocery store can, you know, charge more for the merchandise and offer free delivery. That's doable. Just like, you know, Amazon has Prime, right? Amazon offers unlimited free delivery as long as you're paying a subscription fee for the delivery. But that's because the delivery is part of the retailer's offering. If you're just a free delivery service, how do you make money? That's not a viable business. Does that answer your question? All right. I think we're going to adjourn for now. We are 5 minutes over time. We try to finish by 9:30 a.m. Pacific. So come back next week and we'll continue the conversation and keep answering your questions. All right. Bye-bye. Thank you for coming today.
Nice connecting. Thanks.